Good evening all, and welcome to another video on All How That Out. Tonight we are doing a comparison of two beers. Which two is these two? It is What Are the Odds and Kingslayer. And I'm only doing this one because I was asked to, just to see if I can put the two side by side and draw up the differences between them and see which one I prefer. So Davey, thank you for the suggestion on the video. It's going to really smash my unit allowance this week. Don't have many, but I got to get these things done. So I've enjoyed both of these beers in the past, and the original brew of What Are the Odds with Verdant, it's a Magic Rock Verdant collaboration back in the day, and it was absolutely sublime. This version is Magic Rock on their own. They've changed the hops up slightly. You've now got Sabro in there where you didn't before. It's not quite as good as the original brew, but it's still an excellent beer nonetheless. And Kingslayer is just, well, it's a big juicy double IPA from Buxton, and you know you've got the cracking, you've got the imagery of House Lannister and the inference maybe of Jaime Lannister, the Kingslayer. Who knows? And then you've got the cool kind of abstract artwork on What Are the Odds. It's a nice. I like Magic Rock artwork. I know a lot of people don't like Magic Rock, and it's kind of fashionable to hate on them. But you know, if it's good beer, it's good beer. Anyway, we're going to pour the What Are the Odds into a Northern Monk glass and the Buxton into a Brewdog glass. And then we're going to go for the 5 pillars of judgment. As always, we've got the looks, the aroma, the body, the taste, and finally the finish. We're just going to give them a point each to see who wins. And it's simple as that. It's not an in-depth review as such. We've got separate videos. I will link them in the suggestions up the top throughout the video if you want to go and look at the original reviews of the two beers. So before we go into it, we're going to look at the Untapped Aide Memoir. Now, the rebrew of What Are the Odds has got 295 check-ins. Bearing in mind, it's a fairly recent review. There's thousands on the original. But this rebrew's got an average score of 3.87, and Kingslayer a lot more at 8,398 with an average of 3.94. So they're pretty close when you compare the wisdom of crowds. So as always, we've got the scoreboard of joy ready to rock and roll. And let's get cracking, shall we? So we're going to go in alphabetical order. We're going to pour the Buxton beer first. And into the Brewdog glass we go. The pour is slightly hazy. I do remember it being a bit more hazy than this though, but not massively. Maybe it's just my memory getting to me. There we go. So we've got a bit of haze. We've got a beautiful white head that's kind of fairly blancmange-like and pretty tight and consistent. You've got that clearly unfiltered look going on. If you were able to look up close, I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up, but you've got kind of the not sediment, but the inclusions going through the beer. It's a nice golden colour, otherwise fairly pale, but a really, really nice looking beer. And for those who don't know, it weighs in at 8% exactly. And What Are the Odds is slightly heavier at 8.3. So we're going to pour that one now into the Northern Monk glass. The pour for this one is a little bit more murky. And the smell coming off of the What Are the Odds is phenomenal. So this is more hazy, it's darker, you've got an off-white head this time. It is almost as, yeah, it's equally consistent in terms of the tightness. And yeah, so there's a two side by side, a clear colour difference. Obviously the What Are the Odds is darker, deeper, hazier than the Kingslayer. The head is, yeah, it's starting to lose some of the consistency, but otherwise the heads are both equal in terms of when they were poured fresh. But for me, the win for the looks is on the What Are the Odds. It's hazier, it's got that little bit darker in colour, and it just infers flavour to me. So, on the looks alone, we're going to give the first point to What Are the Odds. So that's 1-0. Next up is the aroma. Now, obviously, when I was pouring, you heard me say I could smell that beautiful tropical notes coming from What Are the Odds. Buxton's Kingslayer was a little bit lighter on the nose up front when I was pouring, but it's going for a whiff. Stone fruit, lots and lots of stone fruit. Mango, pineapple is in there too. Super sweet, really kind of tropical notes coming through throughout. It's really, really nice. Yeah, exactly that. It's stone fruit, pineapple, tropical joy. Now, what are the odds? Much the same, a little bit sharper, kind of like an underripe pineapple coming through on this one. And it smells creamier. It just smells a little bit more complete in terms of the tropical aromas. It's just a little bit more well-rounded. It's slightly lighter in the scent strength than the Kingslayer, but it's more complete. It's got a little bit more going on, a little bit more complexity, a little bit of coconut, and the Sabro hop will bring that through. That'll be the creaminess coming out there. And yeah, it's absolutely sublime. Don't get me wrong, I love the aroma of both of them, but the win is for What Are the Odds? It's looking good for What Are the Odds so far. So the body on a big double IPA. Now they're not exactly the same style. Both are double IPAs, but the Kingslayer is just a straight up double IPA, whereas the What Are the Odds is double dry hopped as well. So it should have a little bit of something to it. But we're going to go alphabetically as always. I've missed a big double IPA. I've not had one since the meds, and this is just, yeah. The body is, it's a little bit more than medium. It's not heavy. It's not, it's slightly chewy, and it's just superbly smooth. The carbonation, it's there. It's not in your face. It's just about right. It's kind of like sitting in suspension in the beer, and it kind of holds it nicely. It's really, really good on Kingslayer. What are the odds? Much the same mouthfeel. It's soft and velvety. It's a little bit more carbonation, and that's really the only thing I can say that is different between the two. In the Kingslayer, it's kind of held, like I say. It's like watching bubbles come up through kind of like a bubbling sugar mix, you know, if you're making caramel. It's that kind of thing. Just how that would, the bubbles pop, it's just like that. Whereas with What Are the Odds, it's a little bit more free-flowing, a little bit more carbonation just popping out. Otherwise, it's that same sort of slightly heavier than medium body with an equally soft mouth feel. I like both of them a lot. Which one wins? Kingslayer. And I just like how the carbonation is just slowly popping out of the beer. It's one for the Kingslayer. It's very, very close, mind. Really, really is close. So, flavour is king, absolutely, or queen, or whatever you want to call it nowadays. It could be the top dog. It could be anything. But flavour is the biggest thing for me. And both of these beers scored really, really highly for me previously on the flavour front, but which one wins out of the two? Let's find out. Kingslayer. It doesn't hide the 8% at all. It's right there, and it's slightly piney. I love a bitter double IPA, and this is quite bitter. It's not massively so, but it's just that enough. The boozy enough, it's just about bitter enough to let you know that you're drinking something a little bit more than your average beer. And it's, like I say, slightly resinous. The tropical aromas, like the pineapple and the stone fruit, are present, but they're not sort of the prominent flavours. It's hoppy to a fault, but the pine is king in this one. So, what are the odds? It's slightly more bitter. It's slightly hoppier. The tropical flavours come through that little bit more. They're a little bit more well defined. You've got the mango coming through. You've got the pineapple. There's a little bit of like orange sitting there in the background. But the hops are king. Slightly more bitter. Lovely. It's tricky. They're both ever so slightly different, but the point for this one goes to what are the odds, which gives it an unassailable lead. It can't lose at this point, but is it going to be a 4-1 win, or is it going to be a 3-2? Could it be remaining 3-1 with a draw on the finish? Finish on a double IPA of any kind. I'm looking for the longevity of the finish, bitterness to come through, and hopefully some of that pine resin to sit there and linger in the mouth. So, Kingslayer. It starts out quite sweet. The pine resin kind of then kicks in and amplifies and kind of just shoots off up the scale a little bit and sits there riding roughshod over everything, fading into the hops. Kingslayer is a phenomenal finish. Really, really is. And it's quite long. And as it goes, it gets juicier. And you know when you suck on an orange and you just have that flesh sitting there at the end that's kind of void of most of the flavour, but then you get that pithiness that comes through. That's what you've got at the end of Kingslayer. It's really, really rather special. What are the odds? Flavour is sublime. So the finish starts out sweet pineapple. And then it's quite dry as well in comparison to Kingslayer is kind of a cloying slightly finish. And this is a little bit more drying. Juicier. Not quite as bitter. But that juiciness is just continuing on and on and on. It's a close call. Really is a close call. But for me, like I say, I really, really hone in for the bitterness on a double IPA, and the Kingslayer has it on that one. So we have a 3-2 victory for what are the odds. But I mean, where it counts the most, the taste, it's what are the odds. And yeah, it is what it is. You might think it's different. You might prefer... If I turn the camera... Yes, I did. So I just had the crazy thought there that I didn't turn the microphone on the camera. But yeah, you might find it slightly different. You might prefer the Kingslayer to what are the odds. I don't know. You might. Anyway, both are excellent beers, and whichever one you have, you're not going to lose out. You're going to have a really tasty experience at either end of the competition here. What are the odds is sublime if you like it a little bit more sort of tropical and creamy. Kingslayer if you just want a more straight up double IPA. The double dry hop really does come through on the what are the odds. It just adds that extra depth of hop, and that little bit of creaminess from the Sabro just pips it for me on the flavour. So we're at the point in the video now where we say down there are some buttons. You know exactly what to do with them. We've got the like, comment, dislike and subscribe. Choose any combination of them as you wish. Let me know out of the two beers which you prefer. Do you prefer what are the odds, or do you prefer the Kingslayer? Let me know in the comments section below. On that note, I'm going to go and drink the rest of these beers, get the video uploaded for your viewing pleasure, and go and watch a film. I'll catch you later on for another video. Bye.